The trouble really started when Gregory Tilling, six-time winner of the Upper Pudlington Allotment Association's longest marrow rosette, noticed a small footnote in the bylaws. Any horticultural event may include a demonstration of athleticism by produce. Most readers assumed it referred to those whimsical fun runs where children tie leeks to their shoes. But Gregory's competitive streak was notorious. While other gardeners dreamt of blue ribbons, Gregory dreamt of podiums, anthems, and gold medals polished to a mirror sheen. He decided, without consulting anyone rational, that it was high time for vegetables to compete in an Olympic-style relay race. Step 1, he reasoned, was selection. Gregory stalked his allotment at dawn, clipboard in hand, giving pep talks to anything green, fruited, or tuberous. "Carrot, you've the aerodynamics of a javelin," he whispered. "Runner Bean, your surname is Destiny." A shy kohlrabi tried to play dead, but he was drafted anyway. The baton, naturally, would be a sustainably sourced bamboo shoot, lighter than wood, sturdier than asparagus, less complaint-prone than celery. Step 2 was recruitment beyond his own patch. Gregory toured neighboring plots like a sports scout, barging into sheds and poking beneath polytunnels. In the Burt Whistle sisters' greenhouse, he discovered Daisy, a butterhead lettuce with an impressive knack for mid-air pirouettes whenever the watering can splashed. In Mr. Chowdhury's bed, he found a row of beetroot whose internal sugar statistics suggested stamina. He cajoled, bribed, and occasionally threatened compost deprivation. Eventually, he had 5 prime athletes: Captain Carrot, Runner Bean, Daisy Lettuce, Boris Beetroot, and Nick, a baby courgette whose only qualification was enthusiasm and the ability to fit hashtags like Donak Vigletics on social media. Training began on Tuesday because Monday had been allocated for motivational posters. Gregory laminated slogans: sow it, grow it, run it, and no pain, no grains. He tacked them to trellises, scaring a few thrushes but delighting the neighborhood's dog walkers. For cardiovascular work, he borrowed Mrs. Penhaligon's model railway, persuading the vegetables to ride the engine up and down the allotment path until they achieved the vegetable equivalent of motion sickness. Then came resistance training, each vegetable strapped to a child's wind-up car, dragging small weights forged from bottle caps filled with gravel. Captain Carrot took to it with stoic calm, while Runner Bean insisted on stopping every few meters to check his pulse with a leaf clasp. Nick Courgette, meanwhile, spent most sessions composing inspirational rap lyrics. "Yo, I'm a marrow in the making. Watch these veggies overtaking." Gregory's neighbors were tolerant at first. Upper Pudlington residents prided themselves on quirky hobbies. Last year, someone taught a goldfish to play chess. Poorly. But when Gregory installed miniature starting blocks carved from broom handles and a set of track lanes fashioned out of bean twine, suspicions brewed. Mrs. Grote, the allotment secretary, summoned him to the shed office where she kept the filing cabinet, the petty cash tin, and a tinier filing cabinet containing offenses and fines. "Gregory," she said, eyeing a photo of Runner Bean doing lunges, "are you entirely certain vegetables consent to sport?" "Absolutely," Gregory replied. "They're competitors at heart. Listen." He lifted a Tupperware box. Inside, Boris Beetroot performed rhythmic contractions, flexing his taproot like a bicep. It made a faint squeaking noise reminiscent of tennis shoes on vinyl. Mrs. Grote, who enjoyed novelty as much as anyone provided it didn't end in lawsuits, gave reluctant approval. Saturday fortnight, after the tomato weighing contest, the inaugural vegetable relay would be held. Word spread like bindweed. The local newspaper, always keen on filler between traffic updates and recipes, ran a piece titled "Legume Lightning, Salad Leaves Rivals in the Dust." Social media caught fire. Nick Courgette's raps achieved 27 likes, 3 surprise face emojis, and 1 perplexed comment from an aunt in Winnipeg. Sponsors emerged. A craft brewery offered commemorative Victory Vines kombucha, and a hardware shop donated a whistle shaped like a parsnip. By race week, 8 teams had registered. Gregory's Green Gladiators, the Nightshade Ninjas, fielding a tomato, 2 aubergines, and a bell pepper who refused to remove her sunglasses. The Spud Sprinters, the Herb Hustlers, Sprout Force 1, Cabbage Dashers, Team Root Awakening, and a last-minute entry from the local preschool featuring 4 plush toys that technically contained less chlorophyll, but were admitted under the footnote's careless wording. Pressure mounted. Gregory drilled baton passes until his athletes could perform them blindfolded, or rather, blind-leafed. He discovered, however, that vegetables are prone to distinct tactical hiccups. Daisy Lettuce, for instance, shed outer leaves each time she accelerated, reducing drag but also mass. Runner Bean insisted on adding hurdles made of knitting needles, because beans like vertical challenges, ignoring that horizontal speed was the objective. Captain Carrot, normally the calm anchor, developed pre-race anxiety after reading an article about rabbits. Gregory tried aromatherapy using diluted neem oil, and while it did nothing for Carrot's nerves, it repelled every insect within a 10-meter radius, earning him applause from organic gardeners. Midweek, a scandal exploded. Boris Beetroot tested positive for excessive levels of nitrate, a substance he naturally produced, but which under obscure rules counted as physiological unfair advantage. Tabloids splashed headlines. Dope root. Boris swore he'd never ingested anything stronger than rainwater and encouraging words. But the Allotment Association Ethics Committee felt obligated to investigate. Gregory defended his beat with lawyerly fervor, citing Section 14B, unavoidable biochemical idiosyncrasies. The committee, anxious to avoid a hearing that might last longer than the vegetable show itself, granted a provisional waiver, so long as Boris agreed to random soil tests. Boris signed, triumphantly staining the paperwork purple. Finally, race day dawned, bright and unseasonably hot. Courgette frying weather, as the announcer quipped. The allotment had been converted into a stadium of sorts. Straw bales for seating, bunting fashioned from seed packets, and a finish line painted with organic beet juice Boris donated. Spectators ranged from gardening purists in khaki hats to teenagers live streaming the event with commentary heavy on the phrase, "I can't believe this is happening." A brass band tuned up beside the compost heap, striking a note suspiciously like the Olympic fanfare before sliding into green sleeves. Lane 1, Green Gladiators. Each athlete perched on a matchbox, shins, if they had shins, glistening with a dab of olive oil for aerodynamic sheen. Lane 2, Nightshade Ninjas. Their aubergine twins, flexing glossy skins like purple lycra. Lane 3, Spud Sprinters. Potatoes sporting tiny sweatbands fashioned from pipe cleaners. Lane 4, Herb Hustlers. Fragrant but nervous. Basil is notorious for wilting under pressure. Lane 5, Sprout Force 1. Tiny but mighty. Lane 6, Cabbage Dashers. Bulky but determined. Lane 7, Root Awakening. A rugged bunch featuring a radish with tattoos. Lane 8, Preschool Plushies. Held upright by enthusiastic toddlers humming Old MacDonald. The starter, Mrs. Grote wearing a referee cap knitted from twine. Raise the parsnip whistle. On your marks. Set. Squee! The whistle emitted something between a squeak and a sneeze. Nevertheless, the race began. Leg 1. Daisy Lettuce lunged from the blocks, pirouetting as trained. Her main rival, Basil from the Herb Hustlers, darted forward, releasing wafts of pesto promise. The track surface, a narrow line of compacted compost, proved wobbly. Daisy's outer leaves jiggled like a tutu, scattering droplets of morning dew. Spectators gasped at her elegant spin halfway down the lane, but the maneuver cost seconds. By the handoff, Basil edged ahead, yet Daisy's pass to runner Bean was textbook perfection. Baton nestled between Bean's tendrils with no bobble. Leg 2. Runner Bean found his rhythm, oscillating like a metronome. The Nightshade Ninja's tomato sprinter experienced turbulence. The sun warmed her skin to near salsa, creating internal pressure. A sudden pop, and she split, seeds splattering like confetti. For health and safety reasons, she was discreetly scooped off the track by a marshal wielding a spatula. This left Bean chasing Herb Hustler's Time, who was nimble but small. Bean's stride devoured ground, and at the 50-meter mark, he attempted his signature hurdle flourish, leaping knitting needles stuck in the soil for demonstration. He cleared the first, clipped the second, tumbled, and executed an accidental forward roll that ended with an elegant flick. Baton perfectly passed to Boris Beetroot. The crowd roared at the acrobatics, misinterpreting mishap for strategy. Leg 3. Boris, powered by nitrate suspicion and sheer stubbornness, launched like a crimson cannonball. Each revolution of his spherical body sent clods flying. Opponents underestimated him, assuming rotundity meant slowness. Instead, he rolled with the centrifugal grace of a cheese wheel down a Gloucestershire hill. Herb Hustler's Rosemary, delicately needled, tried to keep up but snagged on a stray weed, leaving Boris a clear lane. His only threat was Spud Sprinter's Yukon Gold, who executed a crisp sidestep but couldn't match Boris's torque. At the changeover, Gregory exhaled the breath he'd been holding since Tuesday. Boris bumped the baton into Captain Carrot's waiting fronds. Leg 4. Anchor leg. Captain Carrot, orange torso glinting, sprinted like a carrot possessed by the spirit of Usain Bolt's lunch. But danger lurked. From lane 6, Cabbage Dashers had saved their powerhouse, Big Martha, an enormous Savoy with leaves like shielding. She lumbered forward, flattening small undulations, building unstoppable momentum. Spectators stood, uncertain whether to cheer or flee. Carrot's initial lead shrank as Big Martha closed the gap, leaves flapping like sails. At 20 meters to go, they were level. Inside Captain Carrot's mind, a montage played. Gregory's pep talks, the laminated posters, the moment an overzealous rabbit nibbled his cousin last year. Determination steeled his fibers. He leaned, aerodynamic greens streaming. But Big Martha unfurled her outermost leaf, catching a rogue gust of wind. It was enough. She nudged ahead by half a cabbage length. Yet relays hinge on finishing positions and rules. A collective gasp rippled when a line judge raised a tiny red flag. Big Martha's outer leaf, that wind-catching sail, had drifted into lane 5, impeding Sprout Force 1 and technically violating lane discipline. Discussion erupted among officials, punctuated by the brass band attempting suspenseful chords, while adjudicators conferred. Gregory paced, muttering botanical prayers. Runner Bean practiced breathing exercises. Daisy Lettuce reapplied a spritz of water. Boris Beetroot rolled in circles to cool down. Nick Courgette filmed a behind-the-scenes vlog declaring, "No matter what, stay fresh." In lane 6, Big Martha waited stoically, leaves rustling like someone crumpling newspaper. Decision time. Mrs. Grote climbed a crate to address the crowd. After review, she proclaimed, Team Cabbage Dashers incurred a lane infringement. A 5-second penalty applies. Gasps, scattered applause, a single boo from a cabbage enthusiast. Spreadsheet-wielding volunteers recalculated. The penalty dropped Cabbage Dashers to 3rd. The Green Gladiators were declared winners by the slimmest margin ever recorded in vegetable athletics, which admittedly had a sample size of 1. Pandemonium ensued. Gregory leapt across the track, arms wide, nearly impaling his ankle on a spent knitting needle. He hoisted Captain Carrot aloft like a trophy. Carrot greens fluttered in triumph. Runner Bean executed celebratory lunges. Daisy Lettuce attempted another pirouette, shedding confetti leaves. Boris Beetroot, ever dramatic, flexed until a beet juice vein bulged spectrally. Nick Courgette freestyled. We grew, we flew, now victory stew! Medal ceremony followed. Podiums were milk crates draped in burlap. Gold medals were painted metal washers hung from shoelaces. Silver likewise, but less paint. Bronze left rust-colored intentionally for authenticity. The anthem played was an arrangement of chopsticks, because the brass band had not rehearsed anything with more parts. Spectators stood, hands on hearts, some visibly fighting laughter, others blinking away tears of improbable pride. When Gregory stepped to the microphone, requisitioned karaoke machine powered by a car battery, he cleared his throat. Today, he declared, we witnessed what can happen when cultivation meets aspiration. Our vegetables have shown grit, chlorophyll, and the sort of sportsmanship humanity can learn from. Let no one say they're only fit for stew. He invited Big Martha forward, publicly praising her monumental mass and gentlemanly or lady-manly conduct in accepting the penalty without protest. The crowd cheered. Many resolved to appreciate coleslaw with renewed respect. That evening, journalists pestered Gregory about the future of Vegletics. He outlined grand plans, an international league, sponsorship by salad dressing brands, perhaps a winter event featuring root vegetable luge. Meanwhile, the Green Gladiators retired to Gregory's shed for a recovery banquet. Filtered hose water, premium potting grit for texture, and gentle LED grow lights set to relaxing sunset. Daisy Lettuce reclined in a perforated colander. Runner Bean stretched along a trellis like a hammock. Boris Beetroot soaked in a shallow dish of electrolyte-balanced rainwater. Captain Carrot practiced mindfulness, and Nick Courgette live-streamed to his burgeoning fan base. Over the next days, consequences sprouted faster than zucchini in July. Local schools requested workshops on sportive botany. The town councilor proposed a Vegletics festival to draw tourism. A health food influencer offered Runner Bean a sponsorship deal for protein shakes. He declined, citing whole plant values. Boris Beetroot received a trivia quiz showdown invitation. Are you smarter than a beet? He considered it beneath his dignity. But success seeds envy. The Nightshade Ninjas demanded a rematch, arguing their tomatoes' catastrophic pop was tantamount to foul play from the sun, which Gregory obviously controlled by arranging timing. Spud Sprinters lobbied for a variant race on loamy soil, more suited to their traction profile. Herb Hustlers filed a suggestion to legalize strategic wilting as a dodge tactic. Amid squabbles, Gregory convened an extraordinary meeting of team captains in Plot 17. He proposed a governing body, the International Federation of Athletic Produce, IFAP. Motto: faster, firmer, fresher. They voted Daisy Lettuce as secretary because she had natural layers of organization. Boris Beetroot volunteered for anti-doping oversight, suspiciously keen. Regulations drafted. They scheduled Season 2, hurdles for beans, discus for fennel, synchronized swaying for grasses, sponsors queued, compost brands, kitchen gadget companies, a quirky insurance firm covering hail damage. Gregory realized his little footnote adventure had outgrown even his ambitions. Yet amid expansion, he stayed mindful of his troops. Training advanced with yoga, rooted poses only. Mental resilience workshops led by a philosopher's sagebrush, and nutritional briefings heavy on sunlight and classical music. Captain Carrot overcame his rabbit anxiety by befriending a rescue bunny named Hamish, who attended sessions wearing a muzzle-shaped carrot cozy. Runner Bean moderated his hurdle obsession, focusing on sprint splits. Daisy Lettuce embraced leaf shedding as performance art. Boris Beetroot, vindicated, wrote a memoir, rolling with it. Nick Courgette secured a record deal for his debut EP, Fresh Beats Volume Veg. The climax of Gregory's first season came when the national broadcaster televised the Grand Relay Final from an urban rooftop farm in London. 10,000 viewers tuned in, partly expecting disaster, partly craving novelty. Commentary was provided by a retired weather forecaster and a chef, creating bizarre crosstalk. You can feel humidity favoring the brassicas today. I'd braise that in white wine. The Green Gladiators defended their title in dramatic fashion. A photo finish against a genetically flamboyant Swiss chard, wearing aerodynamic foil. Captain Carrot gained cult status. Plush toys of him sold out. Boris Beetroot inspired a line of energy bars. Tagline, root for power. Gregory's allotment became pilgrimage site for competitive gardeners who knelt reverently before the laminated posters as if they contained Holy Writ. Someone even left votive offerings of Miracle Grow. Through it all, Gregory retained perspective mostly. One rainy evening, he sat on an upturned bucket, gazing at his plot. The vegetables lounged after cool-down stretches. Glow of solar fairy lights twinkling off their skins. A hedgehog snuffled by, ignoring the sign reading, Athletes Only. Gregory chuckled. He thought of how it began. A footnote, a whimsical idea, and the audacity to take it seriously. Now his vegetables had passports, figurative, fans, and a league with acronyms. He felt, for once, content, not with trophies, but with the ordinary marvel of watching living things exceed expectations. Nick Courgette shuffled over, earbuds in, humming. "Yo, coach," he said, "I'm dropping a new track. Relay our feelings. It's about teamwork and chlorophyll. Wanna hear?" "Of course." Gregory smiled. He listened. Evening fragrance of tomato vines drifting on the breeze. Rhythmic beats mingling with rustling leaves. Behind him, Runner Bean guided Sprout Force trainees through stretches. Daisy Lettuce plotted a charity pirouette marathon. Boris Beetroot discussed soil pH with an earnest radish. Captain Carrot meditated, the epitome of orange zen. Gregory leaned back. Let the music and the moment pulse through him. Vegetables racing might be absurd, but somewhere in that absurdity, he'd cultivated joy, community, and hope. And in a world where carrots could sprint and cabbages could overtake, who was he to set limits? He raised his watering can in a silent toast to possibility. At that exact instant, the distant shout of a newcomer echoed. "Excuse me, does anyone here coach melons? Mine want a pole vault." Gregory grinned, topping up his can. "Step into my office," he said, pointing toward the shed. "We'll need stronger poles, and probably a bigger footnote.